What's up, guys? Welcome to Knockers on the Bottom. I'm your host, Jay Mill. Jay Mill, if you like. Let's get into it. Before we hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, before we get into the episode, I just wanted to take a minute to tell you guys I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you guys coming here. Whoever comes here to listen to me, whether you're an all the time listener or whether you listen every once in a while, even if this is your first time listening, super grateful. Great for you guys here. I love talking about the Dallas Cowboys. I love talking about Dallas Cowboys football. And it's just nice to be able to share those moments with other people across the world that also like to hear about the Cowboys and and see what's going on and keeping on with the up and up. So I appreciate you guys coming here, and I'm very grateful for whatever you guys do as often or as not often as you show up. I'm just happy that you guys are here. But yeah, let's get into it. So the Cowboys hired their outside linebackers coach. So it looks like their coaching staff is starting to, pretty much come into form, right? You've got Dixon there, which we talked about in the last episode. And then we talked about a lot of the potentials out there. Zach Orr is still out there potentially. But then, Ainsley gets hired. So, we have that guy and a couple other guys that I talked about in the episode also got hired. So all in all, it looks like we're pretty much almost rounding out. I do like what the Cowboys are doing. I like the hire of Chidera Uzo-diribe as the outside linebackers coach. He specializes in odd man fronts and specifically the defensive outside in those odd man fronts. So outside linebackers coach, but more so, edge outside linebacker coach. So whether that's a 3-4 and it's a 5-man front and you're specializing in coaching those two outside guys that don't have their hand in the ground, or whether it's nickel and it's a 4-man front and you're coaching those two edges in a traditional, 4-man front defense. Whatever way, he does have experience with that. So I like that hire from the Cowboys. And it continues the trend of with people that we don't know about, right? We are continuing to dig into minds that are fresh to the Cowboys, in some cases, fresh to the NFL. And then in other cases, just with fresh ideas. But either way, that seems to be a reoccurring theme for the Cowboys this offseason. Honestly, it's something refreshing for me. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know what the Cowboys are going to do if this doesn't work. That's one of my biggest fears is that they take this swing and take this new direction and start thinking in a different way. And then, they do it for 3 or 4 years and it doesn't work and they blow it back up and they go back to hiring retreads and being lazy. But nothing about what the Cowboys are doing right now is lazy, so I got to give them credit. And then just for housekeeping purposes, Stephen Bravo Brown has been hired as a wide receivers coach. He replaces Tyquan Underwood, who left for a job. So the Cowboys are pretty close to finalizing their staff. Like I said, I think they're still going to hire Zach Orr as a linebackers coach. I really do see that happening. They went to dinner with him. And they've kind of been, one of the last few teams to talk to him. So he's probably just making his decision. He's from Texas. It makes too much sense. So we'll see what happens. News is probably going to break right after I drop this episode that says Zach Orr has been hired by someone else. But hey, let's see what happens. So to switch gears and do kind of what we were doing, last few episodes, we're going to take a look at some of the free agent areas that the Cowboys might be able to target if you want them to draft more pure. So I believe we started off doing middle linebackers. We talked about some of the free agent possibilities there. And then after that, we did edge rushers. And so just as an asterisk, on my last episode, I kept referring to Trey Hendrickson as Travion Henderson. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why the running back from New England was on my mind, probably because they're in the Super Bowl. But I just wanted to issue that little notation that I definitely screwed that up. If you watched the episode, I kind of made fun of myself a little bit there and, made sure to type it out. But just so you guys know, I understood what I was doing. I screwed up. But this episode, we're going to actually take a look at the safeties now. I think they're going to let Donovan Wilson go. So that's going to become an issue as far as replacing that. And when we're doing this, we're taking a look at, hey, best case scenario, the Cowboys replace it with one or two of the linebackers we talked about, in addition to one of the edges that we talked about, and then addition to maybe one of the safeties that we're going to talk about here. Because if they do that, then when they go into the draft, they can draft pure, and no matter what happens with the board, they'll always have someone there that they feel that can help their team if they fix some of these team needs first. So that's the whole point behind the exercise. But yeah, let's get into it. So my first thought was Nick Cross, and he's from the Indianapolis Colts. They have him listed as around a $6 million player. He was, as far as the way Pro Football Focus, and they're not the end all be all, I understand that. But the way they had him ranked, he was kind of like okay to bottom third of the league in the coverage aspects. But as far as like run, things and pressure rate, like he had 17 pressures or something like that. So, I mean, he was a very good in the box blitzer, around the line of scrimmage type guy. He's a little bit younger, right? I think actually he is, I don't think, I know. He's the youngest out of the safeties that we're going to talk about here. So just fitting in typical Cowboys fashion, if they're moving on from Donovan Wilson, right? He's an unrestricted free agent. If they're not going to bring him back, he is set to make about the same as they say for Donovan Wilson, right? Donovan Wilson's up there as a $6 million player as well. So basically you're replacing Donovan Wilson with a younger Donovan Wilson and a cheaper Donovan Wilson, because Donovan Wilson cost $9 million last year, actually over $9 million. So that was the first player on my thought. Indianapolis Colts, younger guy, not going to command too much money, pretty much does the same thing that Donovan Wilson does well. He does well. And you're hoping in the new coaching scheme we don't run into what we ran into with Matt Eberflus, which was he didn't want to put guys in position for what they did well. He wanted guys to fit into his scheme. I'm hoping with the new coaching staff, they're looking for what guys do well. And I do think this as a safety could be a low cost, high upside type of signing for the Cowboys. So the next one is the one everybody's been talking about, which is Reed Blankenship. This would be my least favorite of the signings, only because he's probably going to be the most expensive of the guys we're going to talk about here. He's probably going to be about $7 million, I believe. And this is just what the site says, right? You get a good agent, you can get $8 million. You get you decide you want to follow a coach, maybe you take $5 million. But I'm just going off what we see here. They're saying about $7 million. So Reed Blankenship, he is a higher cost. He is a little bit older, not too old, just a little bit. And then also he's coming off of a really, really, really poor season. So all the things point to this should not be happening. But until the Cowboys move different in free agency, which is what I said the last episode, like they've been moving different this offseason, but I can't believe it in free agency until I see it. So even though I think this would be the poorest of the signings, I do think this is the type of signing the Cowboys would make. He's familiar with the coach. He's familiar with the scheme. The coach is probably going to want a guy or two that's familiar with at least what he was expecting of them, to kind of stabilize the learning curve. So we'll see what happens. I don't think that's the player. Nothing against Reed Blankenship, but it's just he seemed to be on the decline. So, and then the other one, which is probably my favorite, is Alohi Gilman from the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to be a lower dollar signing, right? Because he doesn't carry the name value. He didn't make a Pro Bowl or anything like that, but he actually has super high grades in coverage. And so if Christian Parker is looking to pair up, Malik Hooker, who he's okay, and then you add a guy who's probably a little bit better than Malik Hooker in coverage, you can do a lot of things back there as far as mixing and matching, who's going to be the single high, or we're going two high shell, or I actually expect the Cowboys to play some 3 safety, so we'll see how Wanye Thomas comes back and things like that. But this guy will probably be a good fit for that, and he's actually a decent, safety in the run game as well. Alohi Gilman could be, to me, he would be the best signing. He's the lowest cost, or relatively he is, but it's by like a few $100,000. And then on top of that, he's still decently aged. And then he's pretty much good at everything you lacked last season, and he's not a retread. You know, Alohi Gilman is not a big time name. It's a prudent signing. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if the Cowboys are going to do this, because that's the type of guy that when you're trying to build your team and you have a $60 million quarterback and you have a $35 million receiver and probably another $35 million receiver, and you're like, how do we build this defense out? A signing like Alohi Gilman, who's going to be $5 million or under, bet your bottom dollar, you know, and you can probably get him on a multi-year deal as well. And then who is a smart coverage player and a decent run defender as well, but definitely better in coverage as a safety, and he's better than your starting safety right now, and he's cheaper than him. It just makes too much sense. Like, that should probably be one of the first free agents the Cowboys target, but again, until they do it, I can't trust it, because I don't know if they're going to be looking at it in that way. He doesn't have name recognition. He is not tied into anyone on the staff. The best we can hope for is that they had a high grade on him coming out of the draft, because if they did, that's going to be one of those players that they target, because the Cowboys are going to be like, hey, you know, boom, I see it. You know, we had a good grade on this guy. He's a free agent. You know, let's go take a shot on him. It's not a lot of money. But yeah, so we'll see. Those are my three. I do think Alohi Gilman would be the best signing out of the three. And then if I had to rank it, I'd say Nick Cross is next, because at least he gives you something that's walking away, but it's a younger version of that. So that would be okay. And then Reed Blankenship would be by far the third. I'd probably take Donald over him, honestly. If Donald were coming back, I don't want Donald back, and I don't want Reed Blankenship. But if it were just between those two, I'd take Donald every day. So now let's switch gears to the last thing. I watched a few more draft prospects, so just kind of wanted to hit on some of those real quickly. So the first one I watched was Jordan Tyson, the 6'2", 195-pound wide receiver out of Arizona State. So I kind of, Jordan Tyson's pretty interesting. I don't know if the Cowboys are going to be in the position to spend a pick on wide receiver, but then again, if they do some of these things that we're talking about on the defensive end, right, we've hit every single level. So if they were to make some of these smart, prudent signings, maybe it could allow them to add a Jordan Tyson, especially with the thing with George Pickens being up in the air. But Tyson, he has good body control, which is something that's interesting. I watched him make a couple of circus catches. He's actually also got very good hands, varied releases. So when you're watching him kind of get his release off the ball, he definitely changes up the way he kind of sets up his route, right? A couple of times he could take a couple of choppy steps to the inside, hesitate to the outside, and then take it to the inside. And then sometimes he can take some long strides and dip his shoulders to the outside and then take that to the inside, or dip his shoulders to the inside and take that to the outside. Sometimes at the top of his route, he hesitates and slows down like he's about to break back to the ball to maybe run a comeback route, and he just slows down and hesitates just a bit, and boom, takes it back. I mean, the dude has definitely, like, what he's doing just off the rip, he's a pretty decent route runner right now in college, and I can't imagine what's going to happen when he gets with a receiver, a receivers coach who can kind of nuance him up a little bit. But I mean, to me, he would probably be one of the better route runners on the team right away. Right away. So that is an interesting thing that stuck out that I didn't expect to see. But yeah, all in all, I like Jordan Tyson. Now, he's the first wide receiver I watched. He's the second offensive player I watched. I think right now the only other offensive player I watch is the running back from Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love, and he's amazing. But to make this my second offensive watch, I can't wait to see some of the other wide receivers in the draft, like Lemon, who I've heard a lot about, and see how they stack up against Tyson, because Tyson's pretty good. So the next guy I watched was Keldrick Falk from Auburn. The first thing that stood out, he's 6'6", 288. But the first thing that stood out to me was he's like a big dude. Like Keldrick Falk's a big dude. You like when the tape comes on and he's lined up and he just starts moving, you're like, bro. So then I went and looked it up and I was like 6'6", 288, and because I was automatically comparing him to Akeem Mesidor. But then when you look at the size, I mean, Mesidor's 6'3", 265, which is already a good sized defensive end. But this dude just freaking right? So then you watch him play. So he's a big dude, but he does like to bull rush, and that's going to be his issue at the NFL level. I'm not saying he can never win with a bull rush, but if you're going to go up against, some of these tackles, the Penei Sewells of the world, the Jordan Mailatas of the world, like you're going to go against some of those guys. You're just going to go Trent Williams. You're going to go just try to bull rush Trent Williams into Brock Purdy's lap. He's just going to sit down on you and it's just going to be over. And even though you might win a couple of those in the game, like 98% of the time, he's just going to sit down on you and it's going to be over. So what you want to do is you want to see him hopefully develop some pass rush moves, but he can close. That's one thing I will say. Like the criticism I have for Mesidor was once he captures the edge, it's hard for him to close the distance on that quarterback. I don't have the same issue with Keldrick Falk. I don't know if it's because of his length, right? That's could be what makes up, because I don't expect him to run much faster than Mesidor runs. So I'm thinking it's more of the 6'6" thing. So he has a lengthy wingspan, and it just makes it maybe seem like he's closing faster. But I don't care how it seems. I don't care how you get it done. If it's a long arm or a long stride, just get there, right? So I think if he has the opportunity to develop some pass rush moves, then he might have a pretty high ceiling. The only thing about it is sometimes these guys never do. Sometimes they are what they are, and that's just what you get. And they just get a little bit better at what they already do well, but they don't develop other things to press them along. But then at other times, the guy has a work ethic and he reaches that peak. I don't know what guy I'm sorry. I don't know what guy Keldrick Falk is. I don't have the insight into his mental, state of mind or in his mentality. I don't know that. I don't get to interview these guys, one on one. But the hope is that he has some of that, and maybe that'll help him kind of. If he reached his full potential, he could be the best pass rusher in the draft. He would be better than everybody else. But we don't know, so we can't say that. And then the last guy I watched is Dylan Thieneman. I'm having trouble with names today. And he's out of Purdue. So he is one of those guys, he diagnoses very well. He does it very well from depth, too. Like, he doesn't necessarily have to be playing, 7 yards off the ball in order to diagnose things well. He diagnoses well when he's 12 yards off the ball, 17 yards off the ball. It doesn't matter. He sees it well. I actually watched the play where he took a false step, right? So the play's setting up and the quarterback gets to the line of scrimmage and he takes a step to the right. The offense is left, but his right. He takes that step to the right. The quarterback snaps the ball and is actually throwing the ball to the complete other side of the field. He has enough timing and sees it well enough to recover, get over to the other side of the field, and make the interception. He's also very good in the run game, whether it's avoiding the trash, whether it's diagnosing and getting there and taking a direct path to the ball carrier. Like, if I'm not saying that he's better than the Ohio State safety. Of course, Downs is the best safety in the draft, for sure. But if you were missing out on Downs, like, dude, you could convince me, and I've been listening a lot to some of these other guys talk about not necessarily liking trade downs, but you could convince me to trade from 12 to like 16 if Downs is off the board and taking this guy. Like, he definitely would be in play at 20. If I'm sitting there at 20, he would definitely be in play. Like, I think he's going to be a good player. And then what I'm hearing from the Senior Bowl and the East-West Shrine Game and some of these other things are that we're actually getting much better safety play than we thought we were getting at the beginning of the draft. So it'll be interesting to see how the combine goes, how some of these guys run. But yeah, the safety out of Purdue, I definitely like. He's probably my second best Sorry, guys. My second best safety at this point. So, but that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hit me up at knockersonthebottom@outlook.com, knockersonthebottom@gmail.com. Any questions, any comments you have, I'll take them here. I'll take them via email. I'll take them via Twitter. But yeah, leave them in the comments below, whatever. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, so grateful that you guys are here. But until next time, I'm your host, J Mill. J Mill, if you like. This has been Knockers on the Bottom. Peace.